Let me say this clearly right now from the start. Your feelings do not define you. Somewhere along the way, many of us started giving them way too much power. We treat our feelings like facts. We speak them like truths. And then we wonder why they start shaping how we see ourselves. I feel like I'm failing. I feel tired. I feel broke. I feel behind. I feel exhausted. And without realizing it, those words stop describing a moment and start describing who we think we are. But feelings were never meant to do that. They are signals. They are information. They are indicators, not identifiers. A feeling is meant to tell you that something is happening, not this is who you are. And if your inner voice has been running unchecked, if you've been repeating things to yourself that feel heavy, limiting, or discouraging, this episode is for you. Because today, we're taking the power back, and that's okay. Welcome to And That's Okay, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of life and remind ourselves that whatever we're feeling, it's for a reason, and that's okay. I'm Lisa Renee Scott, your host and a passionate believer that every feeling matters and every step forward counts. Each week, we'll dive into real-life challenges, share relatable experiences, and uncover simple, actionable steps to help you navigate it all. So let's take a deep breath, lean in, and get started. Let's get into how somehow along the way, we started letting feelings define who we are. First of all, a feeling is temporary. But when you talk about a feeling like it's a fact, your brain doesn't hear temporary. It hears truth. So when you say, I feel like I'm failing, your inner voice doesn't file that under, oh, this is just an emotion. It files it under information. And when that same sentence shows up again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, your brain stops questioning it. It stops asking, is this accurate information? Is this truth? Is this fact? And it starts asking, okay, how do we live with this? That's how identity forms. Not from one bad day, not from one hard season, but from repeated, unmonitored self-talk. And most of this happens unconsciously. You're not deciding to define yourself. You're just reacting to how you feel in the moment. But your inner voice doesn't know the difference between a signal and a story. So now, I feel overwhelmed quietly becomes, I'm someone who can't handle things. Or I feel behind turns into, I'm always behind. Maybe you say, I feel so tired becomes, this is just who I am now. And once a feeling becomes an identity, everything changes. You start playing smaller, holding back, explaining yourself, avoiding opportunities, not because you can't do more, but because your inner voice has already decided the role you will play. And this is where the title of this podcast matters. Your feelings don't define you. But if you don't monitor them, they will start running the show. Because feelings are signals. They point to something that needs attention, rest, clarity, or adjustment. They were never meant to be labels. So I have a list of statements that you may recognize, that you may say to yourself. Before I read them, I need you to hear this though. What you are about to hear are not truths. They are common internal statements, phrases that many of us repeat without stopping to question them. And if any of these sound familiar, that doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. It means you've been speaking from a feeling, not from fact. So as you listen, don't judge yourself. Don't try to push the thought away. Just notice it. Because right after each one, I am going to show you how you can shift the language. Not to ignore how you feel, but to stop turning a moment into an identity. Because this is where change begins. These are just thoughts that quietly shape how we show up. And once you hear them differently, you'll never unhear them again. 1. I feel like I'm a failure. Should be. I am learning through experience. 2. I feel like I can never get ahead. Should be. I am making progress even if it's slower than I want. 3. I feel so tired. Should be. My body and mind are sending a signal for self-care. 4. I feel so overwhelmed. Should be. I have a lot happening and I can just take this one piece at a time. How about, I feel like I'm not enough. Switch that to say, I am worthy while I grow. This is one we might say to ourselves, I feel defeated. And you should say, I'm still here. I'm still working. I'm still showing up. And that is what matters. Do you hear the difference? The feeling didn't disappear. It just lost its power to define you. So, of course, I have some action steps on how we can acknowledge maybe some unmonitored self-talk and change the language around, right? So action step number 1, name the feeling. That is probably the number 1 action step in so many podcasts. Name the feeling. Don't label yourself. When a thought starts with I feel, stop and finish the sentence instead by saying, the feeling I'm experiencing right now is fill in the blank. I'll say it again. If it starts with I feel whatever, stop and say, the feeling I'm experiencing right now is. See the difference? Okay. That small change creates distance. You're no longer saying who you are. You're identifying what's happening. And this works because your brain can now separate experience from identity. When you use this sort of descriptive language, you stay in observation instead of self-definition. Action step number 2. After naming the feeling, ask yourself this. What is this feeling trying to tell me? Not what's wrong with me, not why am I like this, but what's the signal? Is it asking for rest, a boundary, a decision, support, clarity? Feelings exist to guide action, not create shame. When you look at the message, the intensity often softens. Action step number 3. Rewrite the statement using truth, not emotion. We have to rephrase the original thought into something that is honest, grounded, and supportive. For example, I feel like I'm failing becomes, this feels hard, but I'm still moving forward. Your brain rejects the exaggeration, but responds to believable truth. This keeps you moving instead of getting stuck. Action step number 4, say the new statement out loud. You don't need to chant it. You don't need to convince yourself. Just say it one time out loud. Hearing your own voice activates trust and reinforces new neural pathways. Your brain listens different when you speak out loud. Action step number 5. You have to anchor the shift with an action. Immediately follow the new statement with one aligned action, no matter how small. So if you recognize that the signal was rest, take a 5-minute break. If the signal was clarity, maybe write down a sentence or 2 on what that means. If the signal was a boundary, maybe you should pause before saying your next yes. Action proves to your brain that the new story is safe to believe. This isn't about controlling your feelings. This is about listening without letting them take over. Remember, signals are a guide. I want you to take just a couple of minutes now and reflect. What feelings have you been letting define you? Which ones are only meant to signal, not label? You don't need to silence your feelings. You just need to stop handing them the microphone. A quick recap of those action steps. Name the feeling. Don't label yourself. Ask what the feeling is signaling. Rewrite the thought using truth, not emotion. Say the new statement out loud. And follow it with one small aligned action. Because feelings are signals. They inform us of so much information. You are not your feelings. You are the one receiving them. And the moment you stop letting them define you, you create space to choose differently. Feelings are messengers. They knock on the door. They get your attention. But they don't get to decide who you are. That choice belongs to you. And that's okay. Thanks for tuning into this episode of And That's Okay. I hope our conversation left you encouraged and equipped with practical steps you can start using in your own life. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need this message. And if you're loving the podcast, you'll definitely want to grab a copy of my book, And That's Okay. It's available on Amazon or through my website. Just check the link in my bio or in the captions of this episode. For daily inspiration, reflections, and more tools to support your growth, come connect with me on social media. I'd love to hear how you're applying these steps in your own life. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you that I'm not a licensed doctor or a therapist. I'm simply sharing experiences and insights that have helped me and others like me along the way. Remember, whatever you're feeling or going through, you have feelings, and that's okay.